Irashaimase. Hello and welcome to Fataris' Kitchen. I'm your host, Chef Fataris. It's time once again for Shoot 'em Up Saturday, and on the menu this week we have Mirage Feathers. What kind of taste will it have? Let's get cooking and find out. From developer Oyasumi Workshop, Mirage Feathers released for the PC via Steam in September of 2024. This is a title I'd previously experienced thanks to the demo available during Steam's Summer Next Fest, and it was one I was quite anticipating. The full release has not disappointed, as this is a great rail shooter, similar in vein to titles like Space Harrier and Afterburner, so if you like gameplay like that, I definitely encourage you check this one out. There is a demo available on Steam, so you can try it that way. There are a couple caveats though. The character design, as you can see here, might not be for everybody, and the game is a bit on the shorter side, however the price point does more than make up for that. So this is a solid recommend from the chef. Finding ourselves at the main menu. So under Start, we have our couple ways we can experience the game. So there's a story mode, which has 15 stages, a story, as well as, it breaks it down, basically every 3 stages you have a boss fight. And the boss fights in this game, especially a couple of them, are really fun and just well done for this style of gameplay. We also have Endless Mode, which basically takes your gameplay from story and remixes it into almost a roguelite experience, and that's how we're going to be showing off the game today. So there are a couple options before we dive in that I just want to talk about. So under options, you have the ability to turn the story off if you're not interested in the more anime-esque story, and there's also a streamer mode which will add some will basically make the outfits on these characters not quite as skimpy, and that's what you're seeing here, so something to keep in mind. There's also some great options for both your setting up your controls, as well as quite a few for both increasing or decreasing your difficulty, whichever you're after. Selecting Endless, we are taking to our difficulty. So you've got a couple of difficulty selections here, but in addition to that, you have the skills menu. So if you pick up this game, definitely check this out. So as you earn points in the game, you'll be able to get these skill points for all these different skills, which will change up your game. So you can increase your HP if you're looking to have your energy recharge. We can also change our dodge into a shield, and that's the only one I'm going to activate for this purpose here. But you've got a lot of great options for changing up the gameplay. In addition to that, should you score over 1,000,000 points, you get a chip that you can activate one level of any skill in here as a permanent effect, rather than just purchasing a one-time effect like we just did there. So definitely, if you pick up this game, check out those skills. Diving into the gameplay under easy. So if you've watched a lot of my videos, you know that I'm just a big fan of any shoot 'em up that has a launch sequence, and this one also doesn't disappoint, as we have this brief little launch sequence here. You see some of the fighters, as far as the design is concerned, that great little like runway sequence there. I just like that sort of thing, and it's a nice touch for this game. Alright, now that we're into the game, let's talk a bit about the gameplay. So as far as our controls are concerned, like Space Harrier, we're following a character in a third-person view. We control that character with the right stick, at least using Steam Deck controls, and we have our main weapon on our right trigger, and there's also a secondary weapon on the left. So the secondary weapon is just a chain gun, which fires straight forward and is good for destroying enemies short range, not so much long range. Our main weapon, so as you move your cursor that you have in front of you, your reticule in front of the enemies, it will lock onto the enemies. Our main weapon that we start with is a lock-on missile. So if you hold down your fire button while you're locked on, it will fire in a relatively slow pattern, but you can tap that to fire significantly faster. In addition to your main weapon, as you play through the story mode, you will unlock 3 additional weapons, which are available right from the start in Endless, and one of the reasons I picked Endless to go and show off. So we have the Plasma, which has a huge reticule, and this fires similar to the chain gun, but then once it locks onto an enemy, the plasma will zoom in at the enemies themselves. Next we have the Air Buster, which is a really powerful missile that also cancels out enemy shots. So it's a great one to use for survivability. And last we have Laser, which quickly launches on, deals a lot, or locks on, deals a lot of damage to the enemy, so it's great to use against bosses. However, it does use a lot of energy. So as far as the energy and that sort of thing is concerned, so let's talk a little bit about our life. In the bottom left, we have our life bar. So you've got those orange bars, which are basically the number of one-ups or lives that we have, and the slanted small orange bars. And then the big orange bar is our health bar. So as we take hits, that health bar will deplete, and once it's all the way at 0, we lose a life. There on the right, we have a couple other bars. So the blue bar at the bottom is the energy bar, which as we use our special defensive abilities or active abilities, will get used up. So if you have the dodge turned on and not the shield, each dodge you use will use up some energy. In addition, using the shield also uses energy, so keep that in mind. Also, each of the special weapons, aside from our base missile, does use energy, as they are significantly more powerful than your base missile, so keep that in mind. There's also an overdrive, and you see basically, or rather 5 ticks under that overdrive. So the overdrive basically acts as a screen clearing bomb, which will deal heavy damage to enemies on the screen. In addition to that, it will also power up whichever weapon you happen to be using at the time, as long as there's still energy in your energy bar there. So you can see it's depleting even though we're not actually using anything. So it's a great way to both handle a lot of enemies on the screen at once, clear enemy shots, and also deal significant damage to the bosses that we should encounter. And that's your basic gameplay. So in endless mode, in the top right there, you see your high score, the stage that we're on. So like the main story, every 3 stages we will encounter a boss. And then we also have a damage multiplier that after the bosses, or after each boss, that will tick up by 0.2. In addition to that, the whole endless mode will also get more difficult after each boss as well, and there's that roguelite element that I was discussing that we'll see here shortly. At the end of each stage, the number of hits we've dealt during that stage will be converted into bonus points, and that's where a lot of your score is actually coming from. So when I use the shield, we see our AI partner, which is that other girl that's in the black outfit, shows up, and she provides shields to the character that we are. In addition to that, that shield also grants some life regen, which is one of the ways that we can recover life. Without any of the skills turned on, there is no life recovery, so that is something to keep in mind. Well, with the exception of if you have the auto overdrive turned on, basically your auto bomb, if you run out of life, it will give you or restore a little bit of life when that goes off. So in endless mode, the stages appear in a random order. So we see the different stages, the motifs here. So we started flying over the ocean, then we went over the desert area, now we're flying over this neon city, and those will show up in random order just based off of what the algorithm picks. There's also some really neat stages where it changes up the angle that we're approaching things, so rather than flying horizontally like this, we're actually flying vertically, and I really like when the game changes things up that way. There's also in the story a couple stages where we're going through canyons or tunnels, and I wish that there was some of that in Endless, but sadly that's only for the story mode. So we should be nearing the end of this stage here, and we can see one of the boss fights. The boss fights are also random in the Endless mode, so it might be one that's a really awesome one. One of the things is, especially for fighting some of the larger carriers, the way that the boss destruction happens, I think, is some of the best I've seen in this kind of gameplay. So definitely, the visuals are one of the strong points for this particular title. So in this one, we're fighting another feather similar to us. Well, in this case, I guess story-wise, it's a dandelion, but you have to play the game to go and see. So we can kind of see some awesome, like almost bullet helly patterns being thrown our way here. I'm not doing the greatest job dodging them though, so we're going to activate our shield and hopefully recover back some life from that. We are just using our main weapon, so I will change to the laser, and using the laser and maybe an overdrive as well, we'll just melt down her HP, enemy destroyed, and it moves on. But as I mentioned, so one of the things about Endless Mode is it actually gives you this kind of roguelike experience where you're going through and choosing upgrades every 3 stages. Some of these upgrades are really awesome to see. Some of that, like, you can decrease your energy consumption in overdrive, so your overdrive lasts longer. We can upgrade our air blast shot, or we can upgrade our shield. Let's go ahead and just choose the air blast upgrade, as it's great to have a few more options there. And there's some really neat options that come up, like an additional really powerful laser, more like micro blast from the air blast itself, that sort of thing. So it can really change up your gameplay. So where we've upgraded, oh, now we can see here our threat level has risen, so the enemy damage, the enemy spawn speed has also increased. So here we go, we actually are flying. Just as I was like saying I hadn't seen it in Endless, now we do actually get the canyon stage with these canyon walls as well as bridges that we need to dodge. So that's actually great. So these do actually come up in the Endless mode, just not as frequent as I would hope, as it does go and change up the gameplay. So there you have it. That's Mirage Feathers served up for your enjoyment. So as far as the minus flavors are concerned, well, one of them I'd written down is kind of invalidated by this, but I would still like to see just a little bit more variety in the stages that are selected for the Endless mode itself. But other than that, like, really, if you like this kind of gameplay, this game's great. There is the issue with the character designs not necessarily being something that everybody could appreciate, but if you're not interested in the story, you can turn that off, and that'll like minimize that element of it. So as far as the plus flavors are concerned, really for this style of on-rail shooter, the gameplay just feels so good. The movement is quick and snappy, almost a little bit too much. I do have the sensitivity turned down a little bit. You've got some great enemy attacks and boss fights to play around with and dodge, some awesome weaponry to use and experiment with, and the decent systems for using that as well, where you have the energy system for your more powerful weapons. We also have the skills that you can activate to go and change up your gameplay, either make yourself more powerful if you like need it, or if you're just like looking to go and experience the game in other different ways. And this just the roguelite element of our Endless mode as well really helps bring it to the next level. And then at the price point it's an easy recommend. So there you have it. Mirage Feathers, a solid recommend from the chef. Alright, that'll bring us to this to the end of this week's episode of Shoot 'em Up Saturday. As always, I want to thank you so much for joining us. We hope you have a wonderful week, and we look forward to seeing you again next time.